Good morning students. Our chapter number 10, Respiration in Organisms is going on. In the first period, we learn about cellular respiration, aerobic and anaerobic respiration, how our body respires anaerobically, and how we are getting muscle cramp, and how to get relief from muscle cramp. Today we will see the remaining part of this chapter. Now see our next point, breathing. Activity 10.1. Don't do this activity because you have to do this activity under the supervision of your teacher or your parent. By only reading you can understand the activity and what we are getting from that. Now see the activity. Close your nostrils and mouth tightly and look at a watch. What did you feel after some time? When we close our nostril and mouth and we are for some time, after some time we are feeling suffocating, we will feel suffocating, गुदमरल्यासारखं होईल आपल्याला. How long were you able to keep both of them closed? Maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Note down the time for which you could hold your breath. You have to note down the time. So now you know that you cannot survive for long without breathing. We are aware about that. We cannot survive for a long time without breathing. Now what is the meaning of breathing? Breathing means taking in air rich in oxygen and giving out air rich in carbon dioxide with the help of respiratory organ. What is the meaning of breathing? Breathing means taking air which is rich in oxygen and giving out air which is rich in carbon dioxide with the help of respiratory organ. The taking of air which is rich in oxygen into the body is called inhalation. And giving out of air rich in carbon dioxide is called exhalation. Now see the difference between inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation, taking the air which is rich in oxygen inside the body, it is called as an inhalation, and giving out air which is rich in carbon dioxide is called as an exhalation. And it is a continuous process which goes on all the time throughout the life of an organism. The number of times a person breathes in a minute is termed as breathing rate. The number of times a person breathes in a minute, it's terms as breathing rate. एका मिनिटामध्ये ज्यावेळेस जितके ब्रीदिंग होतात तो त्याचा काय ब्रीदिंग रेट. During breathing, inhalation and exhalation take place alternately. And when we are counting the breathing rate, that time inhalation and exhalation we have to take alternately. One breath means one inhalation plus one exhalation. And when we are counting the breathing, that time we have to count for the one breath, one inhalation and plus one exhalation. And would you like to find out your breathing rate? You can easily find out your breathing rate by doing this activity. Now do you want to know whether it is constant or it changes according to the requirement of oxygen by the body? Requirement of the oxygen by the body. Now we have to find out it is constant for all the time, or it changes according to the requirement of oxygen by the body. And for this we have to find out by doing this activity. The next activity 10.2. Now see the activity. Generally we are not aware that we are breathing. Now while talking also, while sleeping also, we are doing this activity, breathing activity, and we are not aware about that. Generally we are not aware about we are breathing. And however, if you are try, you can count your rate of breathing. And suppose you want to try to count your rate of breathing, you can easily count it. Breathe in and out normally. You have to sit normally and you have to breathe in and breathe out normally. Don't do any activity. Find out how many times you breathe in and breathe out in a minute, and from that you can easily calculate how many times you can breathe in and breathe out in a 1 minute. And did you inhale the same number of times as you exhale? Yes, because breathing rate, when we are calculate the breathing rate, that time we already mentioned here what breathe means one inhalation plus one exhalation. Because of that, here one inhalation and one exhalation will be there. Same number of inhalation and same number of exhalations will be there. Now count your breathing rate. Now count your breathing rate. How you are counting your breathing rate? Number of breaths per minute. Number of breaths per minute. Whatever it is, 15 breaths per minute, 10 breaths per minute, whatever the number of you can get, you can write there. After brisk walk, after brisk walk and after running. After brisk walk and after running also you can note down the breathing rate, your breathing rate, and record your breathing rate as soon as you finish, and also after complete rest. And when you are taking these calculations, when you are taking your breathing rate, when as soon as you are finishing that task, particular task, suppose brisk walk and after running, after as soon as you finish that time, you have to calculate the breathing rate. Then tabulate your findings and compare your breathing rate under different condition with those of your classmate. And here downside the table 10.1 is given changes in breathing rate under different conditions. Here name of your classmate. When school will be reopened, that time you can do this activity. Easy activity it is. Normal, at the normal stage, how much breathing rate will be there for your four friends and yourself. Then after a brisk walk for a 10 minute, after 10-minute walking, what is the breathing rate? After running fast, after running 100 meter, and at the last at the rest position. Now from the above activity you must have realized that whenever a person needs extra energy, he or she breathe faster. We are aware about that already at the starting of the chapter. We are aware about that when a person, he or she, it requires more energy, that time he breathes or she breathes faster. As a result, more oxygen is supplied to our cells is supplied to our cells, and it speeds up the breakdown of food, and more energy is released. More energy is released when we are doing any activity. Suppose from the activity you must realize that whenever a person needs an extra energy, that time he or she breathes faster, and as a result more oxygen is supplied to our cells. When we breathe fast, that time more oxygen is supplied to cells, and it speeds up the breakdown of food, and more energy is released. And does this explain why do we feel hungry after a physical activity? Why we feel hungry? Because after physical activity, we take deep breaths. We take deep breaths and inhale more oxygen. As a result, more oxygen is supplied to our cells, and the process of breakdown of food is speeds up. And due to this, more energy is released, and we tend to feel hungry. ज्यावेळेस आपण एखादं काम करतो, एखादं फिजिकल ऍक्टिव्हिटी करत असतो, त्यावेळेस काय होतं की जी ऍक्टिव्हिटी करत असतो त्यावेळेस आपल्याला एनर्जी जास्त हवी असते, आणि ज्यावेळेस आपण जोरात ब्रिदिंग करायला चालू करतो त्यावेळेस आपली जी बॉडी आहे ते ऑक्सिजन वापरायला चालू करत असते. ऑक्सिजन वापरताना ती काय करते, ब्रेकडाऊन ऑफ फूड करते, त्यामुळे एनर्जी रिलीज होते, आणि जे फूड मटेरियल ते वापरलं जातं, आणि त्यामुळे आणखी एनर्जी तयार होण्यासाठी आपल्याला हंग्री फील होतं, आपल्याला भूक वाटते, आपल्याला भूक लागते. Now the next one, when you feel drowsy, does your breathing rate slow down and does your body receive sufficient oxygen? Drowsy, झोप येणे, झोपेची गुंगी येणे. When we feel asleep or we are sleeping or taking rest, we don't receive sufficient amount of oxygen to produce the normal energy to work as a certain time. Our cells also need rest. Therefore, breathing rate slows down. What is the answer? I'll tell you again. When we feel asleep or we are sleeping or taking rest, we don't receive sufficient amount of oxygen to produce the normal energy to work. As at certain time, our cell also needs rest, and therefore breathing rate is slow down. Now, one most important information is provided upper side. On an average, an adult human being at rest breathes in and out 15 to 18 times in a minute. 15 to 18 times in a minute. And during heavy exercise, the breathing rate can increase up to 25 times per minute. Up to 25 times per minute. While we exercise, not only do we breathe fast, we also take deep breaths and thus inhale more oxygen. Now here, the average breathing rate. The average breathing rate of adult human being was given here 15 to 18 times per minute. And suppose that person he or she doing the heavy exercise, that time it increases up to 25 times per minute. Now see the next activity, activity 10.3. Activity 10.3. Figure 10.3 shows the various activities carried out by a person during a normal day. During a normal day, can you say in which activity the rate of breathing will be slowest, and in which it will be the fastest? Assign the numbers to the pictures in a order of increasing rate of breathing according to your experiences. Now from this all this activity you are suffering this activity, you are already done this activity in your life. Now see the activity 10.3. now see the pictures, variation in a breathing rate during the activities. Now there is a one lady which is washing clothes, one person who are sleeping, one person who are reading the books, one old person who are walking, one person who are climbing, or worker who are climbing the ladder, and one girl who is dancing there. Now from these pictures we have to find out which one who are doing, which one we are we have to assign the numbers to the pictures in a order of increasing rate, of breathing. Now from that increasing rate, now which one has getting the slowest breathing rate? The person who are sleeping, after that the person who are reading, after that the person who are walking, then washing clothes, then climbing the ladder, and last the most breathing rate, the most highest breathing rate, the girl who are dancing. Now our next point 10.3, how do we breathe? Now breathing mechanism, how we are breathing, the breathing mechanism. Let us now learn about the mechanism of breathing. Normally we take in air through our nostrils. We are aware about that. Normally we are taking air through our nostrils. When we inhale air, it passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. When we inhale the air, it passes through our nostrils into the nasal cavity. From the nasal cavity, air reaches to our lungs through the windpipe. In the 5th standard and 6th standard, we are aware about that. We already learned that concept. When we inhale, air passes through the nostrils into the nasal cavity, and from the nasal cavity, it is reaches to the lungs, fuffus, through the windpipe. And lungs are present in the chest cavity. And this cavity is surrounded by ribs on the sides. A large muscular sheet called diaphragm forms the floor of the chest cavity. You can see the figure also here. See the human respiratory system, nasal cavity, it passes from the windpipe to the lungs. Ribs are also shown there, and downside diaphragm is also shown. Now breathing involves the movement of diaphragm and the rib cage, and breathing involves the movement of both diaphragm and rib cage. Now during inhalation, now see what will be happen during inhalation and exhalation. During inhalation, ribs moves up and outwards, and diaphragm moves down, Why this happen? During inhalation ribs moves up. Ribs म्हणजे काय, छातीचा बरगड्या किंवा छातीचा बरगड्या म्हणतो आपल्या, ज्या बरगड्या आहेत त्या काय होतात, त्या फुगतात, वरती येतात आणि बाहेर येतात. During inhalation, you can do this activity also for better understanding. During inhalation, ribs moves up and outwards, and diaphragm moves down, and this movement increases space in your chest cavity, and air rushes into the lungs. That time air rushes into the lungs. ज्यावेळेस आपण श्वास घेतो त्यावेळेस काय होतं, छाती वरती येते, बाहेर फुगते, आणि त्यावेळेस डायफ्राम खाली जातो. अँड ह्या मुवमेंटच्या वेळेस काय होते, एअर आहे ती लंग्समध्ये जाते, The lungs get filled with air. ड्युरिंग एक्झलेशन रिब्स मूव्ह डाऊन. ज्यावेळेस आपण श्वास बाहेर सोडतो त्यावेळेस काय होतं, छाती आतमध्ये जाते अँड इनवर्ड्स, आतमध्ये जाते, खाली जाते आणि आतमध्ये जाते. वाईल डायफ्राम मूव्ज अप, आणि डायफ्राम काय करतो, वरती येतो. इट्स फॉर्मर पोझिशन, टू इट्स फॉर्मर पोझिशन, त्याच्या रेग्युलर पोझिशन मध्ये येतो. दिस रिड्युसेस द साइज ऑफ चेस्ट कॅव्हिटी अँड एअर इज पुश्ड आउट ऑफ द लंग्स. ज्यावेळेस आपण इन्हेलेशन करतो त्यावेळेस एअरमध्ये लंग्स साठली जाते, आणि ज्यावेळेस एक्झलेशन करतो त्यावेळेस लंग्समधून एअर बाहेर टाकली जाते. These movements in our body can be felt easily. Take a deep breath. Keep your palm on the abdomen and feel the movement of abdomen, and what do you find? Whatever will be mentioned upper side, that we can find out easily. You can do this activity, you can easily understand this. After having learned that during breathing there are changes in the size of the chest cavity. Children got involved in the chest expansion competition. We can understand this activity also. When after having the learned during the breathing there are changes in the size of the chest cavity, children got involved in the chest expansion competition. Now here one important line was mentioned there. Smoking damages lungs, and smoking also linked to the cancer, and it must be avoided. Smoking is dangerous to our health. Everyone was boasting that she or he could expand it the maximum. How about doing this activity in the class with your classmate? And now next activities are there, that time we can find out all this. Now here the diagram was given, human respiratory system, most important diagram, you can draw in your notebook. Now downside, the most important point was mentioned. The air around us has various types of unwanted particles. We are aware about that. In air, not only carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen, these materials are there, these components are there. Many more unwanted particles are there. The air around us has various types of unwanted particles such as smoke, dust, pollens, etc. When we inhale, the particles get trapped in the air present in our nasal cavity. We are aware about that. The particles, hairs are present in our nasal cavity. When we inhale, these particles get trapped in. That it is a work of that particular hairs which is present in our nasal cavity. When we inhale, the particles trapped in the hair present in our nasal cavity. And however, sometimes these particles may get past the hair in the nasal cavity. And sometimes what happen? These particles may be passed from the hair which is present in the nasal cavity, and then they irritate the lining of the cavity, as a result of which we sneeze, and त्याच्यामुळे काय होतं, आपल्याला शिंक येते. Sneezing expels these foreign particles from the inhaled air. And sneezing, what they are doing, what activity which is going on in the sneezing mechanism? While sneezing, it releases these foreign particles again into the air from the inhaled air, and dust free clean air enters our body. It clears the path. Sneezing clears the path, and from that we can get clean air enters in our body. At the last, when you sneeze, you should cover your nose so that the foreign particles you expel or are not inhaled by the other person. It is most important. When you sneeze, right now also, when you sneeze, you have to should cover. Forever, when you sneeze, you should cover your nose so that these foreign particles, these unwanted particles you expel, are not inhaled by the other person. Today, up to this we covered. Remaining part we will see in the next period.